This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Good morning and welcome to Djuma Private Game Reserve in the Sabi Sands. It is a cold and rainy morning here, so the view that you have is with our roof on so that we don't get too wet this morning. My name is Tessa. I'm going to be your guide on safari here this morning. Behind the camera we have Morgan and we're hoping we don't get too wet today. It is quite a windy day, so we're hoping that this means the predators might be a bit more active today. But you can see beautiful clouds in the distance, and it has been raining consistently since last night. So this morning myself and Morgan are going to be bumbling around looking for some animals to show you on your safari this morning. But please let us know what you're thinking. If you have any questions or comments, please send them through to #WildEarth on Twitter, @FC on YouTube. And if you're under the age of 18, please pop us a mail at kidsquestions@wildearth.tv. You can also register on the WildEarth website. Head over to the live safari page and you can submit your questions there, and we would be more than happy to answer them for you. So I'm hoping with this beautiful view heading down into some really nice pops of greenery that have started coming up recently, that we might be able to find you. Well, I'm hoping for a leopard this morning. So myself and Morgan are actually going to be heading down to where Tristan had some leopards yesterday to see if we can find them for you this morning. I know Tristan is also going to be bumbling around. Chances are he'll find one before me, but we'll see what happens. All right, I'm going to take a slow drive down into this dip. I hope the signal stays with us, but we'll see how it goes. We are taking it nice and slow this morning because it is so wet. With the roof on, it definitely feels a little different. So it is a quite cold morning, and I'm hoping that means the predators are still going to be active. But I'd also really like to maybe see some elephants for myself this morning and show them to you. But with our cold and rainy day here, let's see what the weather is doing in other locations.
Well, as you can see, not the most delightful weather to be doing a game drive in, but is what it is, and so we shall just try and do the best we can, all things considered. Yeah, my name is Tristan. On camera I've got Paul, and welcome to Rusty, everybody. It's a chilly start to the day and a wet one, which is probably the worst part out of all of this. It's my least favorite thing is to drive around with a roof on, and then to add to that rain that is not hard enough to kind of make a difference, but enough to just wet everything. It's like, I hate this weather, it's my worst one. But anyway, we're going to try to see what we can find. So we're going to just slowly, I'm bumbling north at the moment on vertical access, going to then check slowly down the western side, and then I'll see from there where we go. Tracks wise, to spot tracks. We haven't had enough rain to like clean the road and make it soft so that you can see tracks after the rain. The it's soft and sort of dry, but there's enough just to make it difficult to see, and because of the lack of sunshine cloud cover, it's making it harder to actually pick up tracks. So we'll see how we go with tracking. I think a lot of the animals with this wind and rain are going to be pretty curled up and resting. So yeah, we'll see how we go. I'm hesitant to head back to where we had Marips yesterday afternoon because just signal wise is very, very tricky with this car. Safari Kitty, I don't think we're going to see an explosion of green after these rains. This is way too little rain to cause any sort of explosion of green. We'd need a lot more than this. So what we're looking for is generally when you start to get 10, 20, 30, 40 millimeters, then that's when we get an explosion of green coming through. We have had during the course of the night and this morning 0.4. So this is more like humidity than it is rain at this stage. But yeah, it'll be nice when this all changes. It's been looking so dry and so kind of wintry that it'll be nice to get a bit of color back into the ecosystem. So much prettier in the summer, albeit hotter and more difficult to find animals. It is very much prettier with that greenery that comes through. And it's so funny, I kind of thinking about it, I was actually having a conversation with somebody about this the other day, and we were saying, you know, we kind of talk about how dry it is now, but then you go back and look at photos from 2016 or video from 2016 and you realize just how much vegetation there actually is here in comparison. In 2016 this place was barren. There was no grass, so where we are now you wouldn't see any of this yellow grass. It was just dust all the way through with that drought. So, you know, at least we still have fairly good grass covering in a lot of the areas. It should mean that, you know, when we do get good rains again, a lot of food for all of our herbivores, things should start to come right and do a lot better. Tracks for a white-tailed mongoose from last night, well, early this morning. So we're just checking this northern area because yesterday morning Kara was seen coming this side. Tabangumi has also not been seen for a few days now, so you never know. Of late also Tortoise Pan coming in this side, so it's always a good area just to check for any of them. As for the lions, I have no idea where they were even left or what they've gotten up to during the night. I heard lots of shouting from them, but I expect that the Talamatis just continue to move away from where S8 was, as well as Darkmane, and then S8 probably got to a point where it's like, yeah, this is enough, and turned back and went. I know people are going to check that carcass and see if there's any sign of him there, so I'm hoping that maybe he comes out of the woodwork at that carcass so we can catch up with him that side.
Welcome back. So I am actually driving along towards Twin Dams, hoping that we can find some tracks of a leopard. So far there's a lot of hyena tracks on the road, but I'm sure you can hear how strong the wind is. Definitely hear the roof of Wendy at the moment. Alright, stay with us. We're going to be talking about this beautiful leopard. Welcome back to Djuma. I am sitting with a beautiful leopard that Morgan and I have just spotted on a termite mound right next to the riverbed, and it's not looking incredibly relaxed. I think it's heard or seen something that it's not so happy with. You can see by the body language, flicking of ears in the strong wind, and very often the ears are back and the head is flat. Absolutely beautiful leopard. So this is Tlalamba, our queen of Djuma at the moment. Thank you, James Richard, for the help with the ID.
That's really had a smart on the side.
Alright, so just behind there is a riverbed, and on the other side is where Tlalamba was last night with a kill with Tristan and Morgan. So I'm very happy we decided to come along this way on our bumble. She's definitely hearing things she's not so sure about. You can imagine for a leopard in this wind, it is quite hard to navigate in a sense, because as much as the wind could be helping in terms of smelling and hearing things that are coming from upwind, when it's this hard and it's swirling around the termite mound, it becomes very difficult to be aware of your surroundings. So that's why her ears are constantly flicking. She did have a carcass in the tree last night, so she might also be slightly worried about things like hyenas, attracted to the smell. She has got very beautiful eyes. So it's my first time seeing Tlalamba in person. I've seen her on WildEarth before, but never actually in person. And the most striking thing to me is actually her eyes. She's also got a very thick necklace around her neck, which is stunning. You can see how wet her coat is. Gina, yes, she does have a rather plump belly. I think she fed very nicely on her carcass last night. It wasn't very big, so it won't last her very long, but she's definitely fed well, which is probably also why she's still relaxing. And with this cold weather, she's also going to be enjoying the fact that she's not too hot. She's also pregnant. We've been trying to figure out yet if she's given birth, which would be very, very, very exciting. But no such luck yet of seeing any suckle marks on her belly. I would be very excited if she gave birth while I was here at Djuma. I love how the tip of the tail is just moving, showing a little bit of her mood at the moment. She's actually a very, very big female leopard. So I should imagine, we are still very, very close to twin dams. She might have already gone down to drink. She's chosen a perfect spot to relax, because if her carcass is in a tree on the other side of this drainage line that's actually behind the termite mound, It would be kind of facing where her bum is facing on the other side. She is in a perfect position. She's got the riverbed for a bit of shelter. She's got the termite mound to keep warm on and have a bit of a vantage point, and she's got water close by. You can see she's not as relaxed as she is trying to put on though by lying down. We also know that Dark Mane ended up coming quite far into Djuma last night. So I wouldn't... Oh, big yawn. Look at those teeth. I wouldn't be surprised if she can also smell him or would have heard him through the night last night. I agree, she really does have gorgeous eyes. Very, very, oh, big stretch, very unusual color. Oh, look at that belly. That is so exciting. She's found herself a hollow. Looks like it's an old area that's been dug out by warthogs or hyenas. The perfect perch for the queen. Must actually be quite nice and sheltered in that little hollow. The wind at the moment is now coming from behind her, which means she's going to be sitting in a little sweet spot where there's not that much wind bothering her. The gestation period for a leopard is around 3 months, just a little bit more, so probably closer to maybe 100 to 110 days. So that would have meant she would have mated around 3 months ago, because she's almost full term at the moment. And I'm very excited to see how many cubs she has and where she has them. So we have got another vehicle that has just come to join us. Very exciting for everybody to see a leopard this morning. And what a leopard to see. There was a baboon alarm calling in the distance that really caught her attention there. You can see how her tail has just started moving on the tip ever so slightly on that beautiful white section. So it really shows her mood every time she hears something that makes her kind of snap her neck a little bit. You'll see the tail starts moving, and that just shows a little bit of kind of alertness. It can also show agitation or even curiosity. She's definitely one of the most striking leopards I've ever seen. I don't know if it's because I haven't really seen many leopards in 7 months. She's now the 4th leopard I've seen in 2 days on Djuma. But she looks almost like her characteristics are bold. Her whiskers seem bold compared to her face. Her rosettes seem very, very dark. She is stunning. I think she's very lucky today. With this weather, it means she would actually be able to move around a bit, so even though she might stick around the general area, because her carcass was in the other tree, there won't be much left, but it might still be worth her sticking around this area. So I would hope that, you know, as we go through the day, we can actually follow her around a bit, see where she goes. Might also give us an indication of where she might be wanting to give birth. You see when the wind gets very, very hard, as much as she's sheltered, it's definitely still a bit in her face because she tends to close her eyes, trying to stop any dust from getting in there. But as much as she's relaxed on the termite mound, those ears have not stopped moving. I just love that immediate reaction. As the ears and the head moves to a particular sound, that tail goes with it. Leopard is definitely my favorite animal. Wild dogs, I think, are a close second. And to me, it's very obvious why they are so beautiful and so expressive and so powerful. I think it takes a lot to be able to survive on your own as opposed to in a pack or a pride. So leopards to me have the utmost respect. She's definitely hearing something, so I could hear a bird. And she might be looking for that in the grass. But I'm going to stick with her and just see what she decides to do. She looks like she might want to move just now.
My name is Nomfundo Ndlovu and I'm the Senior Project Manager for the WISA Schools and Youth Unit. I'm a qualified horticulturalist. I'm particularly passionate about supporting schools towards working through their sustainability journey and towards food sovereignty throughout food gardening projects. A typical day in my work involves me overseeing our national projects and creating an enabling environment for schools to thrive and succeed in working towards self-reliance and sustainability, and really ensuring that no school gets left behind.
Being nominated to the top 5 and finally being here, for me it's an achievement. Tracks, I believe I did quite well, and the walk,
and sometimes you often drag their feet forward.
The storytelling as well. So yeah, I think that's where I see my strongest point.
And then that was the opportunity of the scrappy.
I say the bedding and the call, definitely for me. It was quite a big challenge. Guiding is not all about the award that we have had, but in sharing the experience and continue to do what we have passion and love.
Something very, very interesting. I didn't plan this, but this is a scene rarely seen. This is what we call a journey of giraffe. So beautiful.
Tune into WildEarth every single day. It's in your nature.
A creepy and crawly morning. Cold and windy and blustery. And look what we have here. What a cool thing. So I must admit, we didn't find this exactly here. We brought it from the lecture room, which is just over there. But I really wanted to show you how cool it was. Hi everyone, my name's Mike Anderson. Behind the camera is BK. And this cold and windy place is Eco Training's Pride Lands Conservancy, where Calvin was just telling me, I was thinking, oh gosh, it's going to be difficult to find things this morning. And he said, Mike, I've got something really cool for you to show people. And there is the skin of an extremely huge black mamba. So this black mamba skin is not old. It's still so soft and malleable. It's not brittle at all. It's still got a bit of stretch in it as well. So this is not very long ago that this black mamba was busy working itself along a stone or a branch to try and shed its skin so that it could have a fresh covering on its body. Remember, snakes don't have eyelids like we do, where we can blink to keep our eyes nice and clean. They have just this shield that goes over their eyes. So over time, as their body grows, the scales can't really grow bigger, and as they scratch the eye shields, they can't see very well. So they need to shed their skin in order to get fresh eyes almost. But check how big the snake is. Let me just lie down. Oh, it's difficult with all this stuff that I've got, but from the tip of my toe to the top of my head, it's exactly as long as I am, and that's not even the full snake. It's probably still missing a good 40 centimeters on the tail there. Gerald snakes shed their skin quite frequently, as many as 15 times in their first couple of years of life as they grow very, very quickly. But later on, as they get bigger and they reach their, more or less full size, they just shed maybe 2 or 3 times a year because they're no longer growing. They don't need to replace that skin as frequently. They replace it mostly in order to grow, just like insects shed their skin, or arachnids as well. So check the head out here. So it's very difficult to see, but there's one of those eye shields I was talking about. Can you see that? Are you able to check that out, BK? Just over there. I'm trying to hold it as still as possible. See that beautiful cylindrical eye shield? So that's the thing which the snake needs to replace also quite frequently so that it can continue seeing. Remember, they can smell very clearly what's around them, but black mambas in particular and boomslang are some of the few snakes that can actually see things that are static, things that are not moving. So they're able to spot predators and prey even if that thing is staying very, very still, which is quite unique with snakes. Well, from this really cool snake skin that's not quite a carcass, but still very awesome, to Tristan, who actually has a carcass right now with some vultures.
Yeah, with some vultures at the buffalo carcass. I just wanted to check nicely just to see if maybe hyenas or jackals were around. We don't really get to see jackals all that often, so it's a good place to come check for them. I didn't really think there'd be any lions here, but it's obviously they got chased off, but you never know. SA might have come back and sniffed around, but more than anything, I was hoping we'd get some hyena, jackal kind of activity. Instead, we've got just some vultures. We've got white-backed and hoodeds that are moving around. There were a lot more here when we first got here, but when the car arrived with this wind and noise, they panicked and all flew away pretty quickly, as you can see one going there. They probably also have eaten fairly well this morning already, and there isn't really not a lot left on this buffalo. It's been picked pretty clean. So the only ones that would really probably benefit from this are the hooded vultures. They have the beak that is small enough to be able to get into all the little crevices of the spine and the hip joints and all around the sort of boss area and face and ribs, and they'll be able to get little sort of bits of meat from there where the white-backed and things like leopard-faced, white-headed wouldn't be able to reach. So they're always the last ones on the kill. They kind of pick everything as clean as possible. But it's amazing how that's been rendered an animal that was alive 2 days ago, and it is now completely clean. The bones are white. Pretty much everything has been taken off, and amazing the efficiency of all of the predators out here, as well as the scavengers, to be able to break down a carcass of this size in that amount of time. It just goes to show how well they are adapted to being able to do these things. And you can see what the vultures or the hoodeds are going for straight away is towards that skull area. That's where the most amount of meat will still be. You can just see a little bit of it kind of caked on the forehead area of that buffalo, and then they'll be getting in around the sort of spinal sections and using those little beaks to pull off bits of meat. But I'm sad that there's no jackals around. I was hoping we'd get a little jackal kind of bouncing about. Kim, so their major sense that they're using when locating food is eyesight. You know, when you're soaring at the heights that they soar at, 5, 6, 7,000 feet, you're not going to be using your hearing or your sense of smell. So eyesight is vitally important for them. They have impeccable eyes, and so what they do is when they're flying, then they spot something down below that dead animal like this, which is an easy spot for them because it's out in the open. Then they come descending down and will start to kind of harass the predators that are there. Now, this particular buffalo wouldn't have attracted a huge amount of vultures, purely based off the fact that the weather conditions didn't suit vultures flying. Remember, vultures are big, heavy birds, and so they require thermals to be able to move around with effectiveness. And this buffalo was killed not last night, the night before, and we've had very poor, dark, dingy weather yesterday and today, so not a lot of heat would have been rising, which meant not a lot of vultures would have been flying. Also, this time of the year, you find that your congregation of vultures around a buffalo carcass where lions are in attendance is actually not very high. There's a number of lions hunting buffalo at the moment because the buffalo's condition is worsening, and so you're getting small pockets of vultures rather than sometimes in summer where it's a little bit harder to come by carcasses. Then you'll find a lot more vultures attending one carcass. But yeah, we don't see vultures like you see in East Africa. East Africa can be ridiculous when the crossings in town, the migration is in town, depending where you are, if you're in Serengeti or in the Mara. There the vulture numbers can be just on a whole nother level. Sometimes you can see easily 1,000 vultures in a day, just driving around. There's all these dead wildebeest, and obviously at the crossings there's dead animals, and there's lions that kill them, and so you just find vultures absolutely everywhere during that migration. But a happy hooded vulture that we came, though, because the hoodeds were not anywhere near the carcass. They were being pushed off by a mob of whitebacks, and when we arrived, all the whitebacks flew off, so it's allowed a gap for these hoodeds to get in. So they, I think, will be thanking us on our arrival this morning. But it is very, very chilly. It's cold. Lazarus, probably not. Just given that impalas can be eaten by a number of animals, so impalas are going to be taken by, and also we're approaching lambing season now soon, which means it just goes through the roof. But impalas are killed by things like pythons and all the way up, martial eagles all the way up to lions, and everything in between. It's quite eerie with those ribs moving. By the way, almost looks like a piano keyboard. So yeah, I think the number of impalas being killed is a lot more. In terms of us seeing impala carcasses, we generally only see impala carcasses with leopards and wild dogs. All the other animals tend to finish them before we can really get to them. Every now and then we'll see the lions, but it's not common to see them on impala carcasses. Whereas buffalo, they last much longer, and finding them is generally pretty guaranteed unless it's a little baby. But we'll see a lot more buffalo carcasses now than any other time of the year, because the buffalo are at the point where they're starting to lose condition. And so while we have had a sprinkling of rain last week and a little bit during the night, it really hasn't been enough rain to to spark the growth of the grass yet. And so the quality and the nutrition that they're getting from this dry grass, you can see how white the grass is around this carcass, is very poor. And so the buffalo themselves are losing condition almost every day at the moment, and that's making them weaker and weaker, and therefore softer targets for the lions. Once we get the greenery kicking in, they pack on size pretty quickly, and their kind of health gets better, and it becomes a million times harder for the lions to actually bring them down in the summer months. So I think the better way to phrase this is that no, we won't see more buffalo carcasses than impala carcasses, but we will see more buffalo carcasses than we will see buffalo carcasses at other times of the year. Late winter is always your best time for these hunts, and if you look at kind of social media and you follow any of the lodges or camps that are in any of the reserves in the southern hemisphere where it's still dry, you'll notice that the numbers of lions on buffalo incidents and videos that are coming out are increasing by the day at the moment. So lots and lots of kind of videos and photographs of lions interacting with buffalo, and that's just purely because, one, we've got decent herds starting to roll through again, and two, they're starting to weaken. And that's true of here, Botswana, Zimbabwe. At this time of the year, it's dry and becoming difficult for the buffalo. So you'll see every now and then another vulture will come in and land. As they start feeding, they start getting confidence, and the other ones don't want to miss out, and so they also come down. I can still see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 whitebacks in a tree that could come down. But I think we're going to carry on. We're going to go try and see what else we can find. We'll leave these guys to themselves. Hopefully we'll have some luck with something in their area.
So I am still sitting with Tswalu here at Djuma. You can see how her ears are moving. She's very alert. So just listen to the different bird calls and things happening and watch how she reacts. It's very interesting. So I think a lot of the birds are carrying on with their day as usual. 1 or 2 have alarm called every now and then. Beautiful sounds. Welcome back to Djuma. I'm still sitting with our Princess Tswalu. She hasn't moved from her little hollow that she found in the termite mound, but she is very, very active with her ears in in this wind. The wind has been picking up consistently. Seems like it's getting worse by the minute. Myself and Morgan are freezing. But it's so worth it to be sitting here with her. For now, the drizzle has stopped, so it seems like she might be drying off a little bit in the wind. But you can actually clearly see where her coat is still wet behind her shoulder and her neck. Oh, look at those eyes. Got the most beautiful tinge of green in her eyes. And I just love the fluffy bits coming out of her ears. It is, or it must be quite tough for a predator like a leopard, consistently on its own, unless it's a mating season or she has cubs. You know, she goes into estrus and she starts mating, then she'll have a mate for a while, 2 or 3 days. And the rest of the time she's on her own unless she's got cubs. So it can be quite tough to kind of pick up on any surrounding danger if you're on your own, especially in wind like this. But leopards are just so well adapted. I think, you know, the way that they can camouflage and the way that they are just so hypersensitive to noises and smells and movement. Just incredible. Beautiful big stretcher. We're going to see what we can do to follow her. It is a bit challenging with the roof on. She is heading down towards the drainage line. Shreya, so leopards would normally give birth to 2 to 3 cubs on average at a time. There have been cases of 1, there have been cases of 3, 2. So the average is about 2 to 3 at the moment. I don't know how many she'll give birth to. I don't know if you guys want to weigh in on that and and have a guess at how many she might give birth to, and if we do actually get to see them sometime soon, that would be amazing. I certainly hope that she gives birth while I'm here and we manage to find a den site for her. But following her on days like today when she is so close to full term in her pregnancy really does help, because if you can follow her movements and you can pick up where she spends most of her time, she might be wanting to den in that area. So we are going into a dip, so please, if I do lose signal for a few seconds, bear with me. She is actually just walking straight down towards the riverbed now. Alright, so we've got the roof on, sorry for the bars. Alright, so as she disappears into the grass, I'm going to do my best to keep up with her. It is a bit tricky with the roof on while we're off-roading, so we're going to send you over to Mike, who's looking at a whole lot of beautiful small things.
We have found a Transvaal thick-tailed scorpion. I think that's what it is. It's definitely a parabuthus of some sort, and those are the bad boys. This one can give you a nasty neurotoxic sting that will cause you great concern if you were a very young person or a very small person. Oh, look at this, burying itself there, trying to find shelter. It's very windy and cold, so we're not going to keep it too long. We want it to be safe, but there it is. You can just see its tail now as it disappears underneath the seeds there in between those 2 rocks there. So that scorpion was a Transvaal thick-tailed scorpion, which is one of the most venomous scorpions in this region of southern Africa. And that was a very small one. They get much larger than that. And this is one of the reasons why we always tell people at night, walk with shoes on, preferably closed-toed shoes. Because if you get stung by this, it will almost certainly result in a hospital visit, and you will not be having a good time. Having neurotoxic venom, we can't see, you could just see one of its pincers there. I don't want to disturb it anymore because it's very cold and it will lose moisture, and I don't want it to be in a bad place. But if you get stung by that scorpion there, you will have most likely difficulty breathing, you'll have sweats, dry mouth, you might have a loss of vision. In extreme circumstances, you might even have a cardiac event. It's unlikely. There's not many fatalities recorded from this particular scorpion. However, it is possible, especially if you're susceptible or particularly susceptible to that venom. But wow, what a cool little creature. So we're just turning over rocks as always. It's very interesting to see what's underneath them. And yeah, as we turned that one rock over, it was just hiding in this little sheltered spot just over there. And then it moved around looking for another place, and then it went underneath here. So it's right in there at the moment. Very difficult to see. It's just in there. You can just see the side of it. So as I said, it's a small one, but they can get much larger than that. Victor, no, we don't keep any antivenoms for different types of venom, particularly or simply because we're not medical professionals. We can't administer medication. If we had a nurse or someone who was a professional on standby in the camp, then we could potentially have those things, someone who was licensed to administer those medications. But you know how antivenoms are made? They're generally made through envenomating a horse who then is much bigger and stronger, and their body produces antibodies. Then we take that, we separate the serum from the blood, and then from that we can create something that will be put into our bodies. But because it's something from another type of animal, not a human, it can cause massive reactions, and our body might reject the serum, and then we give ourselves an even bigger problem than we already had in the first place. So generally these days, antivenoms are not often used. Obviously in extreme cases when you might die, they'll use the antivenom because, not much worse can happen. But for most bites and stings, we rather, treat the symptoms and get someone to hospital where they can be put on ventilators or something like that. It's very rare, very unlikely to actually happen. I should say, touch wood, it hasn't happened since I've been in the bush that someone has had a really serious incident. I've been stung by many scorpions over my time, just simply silly things like putting shoes on without checking inside them first, or like putting my shorts on when they were sitting on the ground for a long time, and then they sting me, and it's never pleasant, it's painful, and usually gives you all sorts of different sensations. But I've been lucky enough to be able to fight off any of the serious effects. But I'm going to cover this scorpion up now. I don't want him to be exposed, and I certainly don't want it to get eaten by something. And it is a very small, thick-tailed scorpion. So we'll leave him alone, and we'll go and see what other cool little creepy crawlies we can find. Actually, I wanted to show you the sunrise. I don't know if you'll be able to get that there, BK. The sunrise is looking absolutely glorious in the sky there. Waikisha, that is a good question. Scorpions eat a whole bunch of things. Generally speaking, they eat other insects. I'm actually going to look back in this thing. I'm making BK work very hard. I'm making him go up and down. But generally speaking, scorpions eat other insects. So let's see if we can find the leftovers of something that it might have eaten. I don't see anything. But, millipedes, beetles, especially, they love beetles. Little things. We saw one trying to chase away ants. I don't think they would eat ants, but spiders as well. I've seen scorpions with leftover bits of spider. There he is, just in there. For those of you who didn't see him before. Just in there. Getting very, very curled up. Trying to, scorpions have to tightly or carefully control their moisture levels. So that's why it buried itself under this litter, to try and prevent itself from desiccating or drying out. I really can't see any bits of beetle. It's been a long winter. There hasn't been too many insects about, so this scorpion hasn't probably eaten for a little while. But while we cover this scorpion back up, we'll send you back over to Tessa, who's apparently got another cool visual of her leopardess.
Welcome back to Djuma. So Talamba was sitting there beautifully. Now she's just hidden herself behind some bushes. She seems to be on the move just on the western side of the little riverbed where she had her kill last night. So going along down this riverbed. She's just on my left-hand side, and she seems to be weaving in and out of the thickets. So she's making it a little bit difficult for me to get her on camera for you. But we'll see what we can do. She seems to stop every now and then. She sits, she looks around and kind of decides what she wants to do. And then she goes from there. There are some really beautiful open areas in here on the left, so I'm guessing she wants to stick kind of along the riverbed because it's easier for her to hide in these thickets, especially on a windy, cold, rainy day. But I don't want to go too far in case we also overtake her. It's a game of... it's really a game of, alright, use your gut here. Right, so actually what I want to do is just park off here for a minute and listen, because if she flashes anything in the grass, small birds, squirrels, anything like that, they're going to start alarm calling. You can see it's really, really thick in there. She was just at the base of those green trees as they meet the grass. She was in that kind of layer. Last visual of her, she was still mobile north. Okay, relocated, still static on the western side. Alright, Morgan's going to try and get her. There we go. She is so well hidden. You can see some of her rosettes. I don't know what she's doing. Maybe hiding a little. So you can see how when you're walking past or driving past like this, you would never know that there's a leopard there unless you'd actually seen her disappear into that thicket like Morgan did. Come east from where you are.
I see you now.
Just helping to get another vehicle in. Where she's hiding at the moment, you can see it's quite hard to keep track of her, because if she slips out the back and she decides to move through those thickets, it will be incredibly difficult to find her again. So that's why we've been getting kind of these glimpses of her as she's moving, just by chance, as she gets into a little gap in between these nice tall grass thickets. What is really good for her is along the banks here, there are a lot of tall trees for a quick escape if she does come across something. But at the same time, there's also, you know, enough cover that she could even bump into something small if she feels like she hasn't eaten enough. She would definitely go for something if she surprised it in the bush here. But it just blows my mind how I know there's a leopard there, but it's so impossible to spot her. Yeah. Let's see if we can find her a better view. She is so well hidden. She is really testing our skills today, Morgan. There she is, sitting beautifully behind the branch. Let's see if that's a good enough view. You see her, Morgan? Right. There she sits. So she's being very strategic in her movements today. She is pausing as often as she can. And that's all just to gather information. She wants to make sure of where she's going before she goes with the strong wind. It kind of gets funneled a little bit down these riverbeds that I'm in. But compared to where she was on the termite mound, we are much more sheltered here. She's heard something. I can't hear a single bird calling. It's just the sound of the wind at the moment, which is actually great for her, because if no birds have spotted her, there's no alarm calling, no other animals are going to hear that. So she's actually done a really smart thing by moving away from that termite mound where she was so exposed. Coming to an area where she is so well hidden means that she's got a much lower chance of being seen by any birds or animals. I've seen many a leopard give up on their adventure because a bird has spotted them and started alarm calling. It must be incredibly hard to try and funnel out through the wind all the different sounds around you. Breaking branch here or there could mean the approach of another animal or another predator even. Alright, so it looks like she's either going to settle or move. Alright, so now that she's settled, I'm actually going to sit here with her, see if I can get you a slightly better angle, and hopefully I can give you a beautiful, clear view of her just now.
Hi, we are Yaku and Milani. We are from Gauteng in South Africa. We started watching WildEarth last year during the level 5 lockdown, and we've been watching ever since.
Being in nature is one of the greatest feelings. We absolutely love it. Our favorite thing about WildEarth is that the concept is so amazing. We have the benefit of having a wildlife safari in the comfort of your home, especially when you're not allowed to go out. Being part of the Wildlife Explorer program gives us a sense of giving back and contributing to nature. It just makes us feel good because we love it so much. We are so excited to be visiting Ngala. It is obviously, I think for most people, an absolute dream to visit the Masai Mara. We can't wait to go.
Thank you very much for this amazing prize, WildEarth.
WildEarth Explorers. It's in your nature.
Civilized to just found some black rhino tracks. A mother with a calf. The calf tracks are so small. They're somewhere here in this area, but it's too dense to walk this way. So we're gonna walk around where it's not so dense. Let's hope we get lucky.
And sometimes you often drag their feet forward and deposit the scent mark, which is what they use to patrol their territory.
We managed to get a glimpse of the black rhino, but for safety reasons, of course, we held back and we walked a different way, but it was such a fantastic experience. We didn't just focus on the big things, because it's not all about the big things. We focused on army ants and lots of dung. Civilized did an incredible job, but it's up to the judges now.
This is a battle of two great carnivores of the African wilderness. Whew. Whoa! You don't want to be under those jaws. Definitely, this round goes to the lion. Look at that. Fantastic.
Expect the unexpected here on WildEarth.
Well, we've come just in time. We've just found a leopard. Just trying to see who it is. I think it's Tortoise Pan. Was tracking him down Triple M, and the tracks were very, very fresh. So I think it's him. It looks like he's stalking something at the moment. It is Tortoise Pan. So we had very, very fresh tracks, and I was saying to him, Paul, these tracks are super fresh. It's on top of the rain. And then I spotted him like walking into the bush ahead of us. So nice that we managed to find him. He's been hanging around a lot. He's just crossed into Djuma now. It looks like he's stalking something as well. You see how he's moving around? Head's down on the ground. He's sniffing. Maybe there's even another leopard around. You never know with him. Shadulu could be here. There could also be Kara, but let's try and keep up with him. It's quite thick in here. I don't see any prey animals that he could potentially be stalking, but he's definitely interested in something. With this weather the way it is, I suppose hunting now is not the worst idea. There he is, just in front of us here. Sorry, please excuse the pole. That's from the roof with the rain that we've had this morning. Nancy, you say awesome, more spots? I know, very awesome. It's been nice to get lots of views of Tortoise Pan of late. I mean, I've only been back for 3 days, and this is the second time we're seeing him. So he seems to be spending a little bit more time kind of coming into Djuma. He's pretty much taken the exact territory that Hukamuri used to have. It's the exact same areas that he's utilizing, which is cool. So hopefully he'll spend a lot more time on Djuma. But look at that nose. That nose is working overtime. He's definitely intrigued by something here. I don't know what it is, but he's interested in something. See, he's moving off a little bit. I mean, there's a very big possibility that we don't keep up with him this morning. The way that he's moving is going to be erratic, and it's fast. You can see he's not moving very slowly today. So I'm hoping we'll be able to keep up with him, but you never really know with leopards. They get into moods, and then it's harder to follow. And he's a funny cat. Some days he's perfect, the other days he just wants to move and not be near the cars. So we'll just have to see what we get from him today. This roof will be something unusual for him. Alright, while I try and keep up with Tortoise Pan, let's send you across to Tessa with Kalamba. Stations I've
We are really getting spoiled with leopard sightings today, it seems, at Djuma. So our Princess Kalamba has just sat up. She is very alertly looking at the bank that's actually behind me at the moment. And that's because there have been some Ngala moving on the opposite bank. So she's kind of watching them, figuring out their movements. They definitely have not spotted her. She's been sitting so still behind the grass. But I wouldn't be surprised if she kind of, once she's made her assessment, starts moving towards this bank. There's more than enough cover for her. She might decide it's worth a try to actually hunt them. She might also just be being overly cautious, though, to make sure that they don't see her and give away her position to other predators. She definitely looks mischievous, though. Yes, she certainly does seem very, very focused. She is... I don't think she's moved her eyes off of that position where they were moving. It's one of the things that I really love about a leopard is the ability to kind of focus intently on one place, and just everything else around you. You can still see she's aware. She's moving her ears to listen for the sounds, but when she's focused on something, she's dead focused on something. You can see as soon as she moves back to that position, it's that same alert look. They have moved up over the bank, so I don't think she can see them anymore, but she's definitely still watching for the movement. Oh, I love the way a leopard moves. She's literally edging herself from position to position to 2 or 3 steps at a time, and then she freezes. She is an exceptionally beautiful cat. Don't know what it is about her, but she has like a charm factor. I think she might be my favorite leopard so far. Right, so she seems to be still for a little while. And at the moment easily distracted by noises, which is completely understandable in this wind. I'm going to sit here and see what she does, but in the meantime I'll send you back over to Tristan following Tortoise Pan.
We do have visuals of Tortoise Pan. He's going to disappear now. He was right in front of our car, but he's also focused on something. What it is, I'm not quite sure. I can't see anything. He keeps stopping and looking around and checking as though he's very interested in something. I think just with the wind, he's probably hearing stuff and smelling stuff and trying to utilize it to his advantage, but off he goes. He looks like he's going to cross back out of Djuma, unfortunately. Let's try to keep up with him. It's very, very close to the road now, where he's heading. Although he stops, I'm going to try and stop here for you, or somewhere there should work. I think. There we go. But active cat, and I think we're going to see a lot of the leopards will be very active in this weather looking for food. They're going to be trying to find things that they can hunt with swirling wind. It's going to disguise their scent as well as their sound of approaching. It's also quite dark and dingy this morning, so it's still good for camouflage. So good hunting weather for these guys, and I'd imagine if they can find something, they'll certainly take the opportunity to try and hunt. Now, in Tortoise Pan's case, because we don't see him all that regularly, or haven't, it's an impala. There goes the impala there. It's running towards Djuma. I think he's missed that it ran. Just saw a female impala run off to the right. Yes, boy, you missed it. You were too busy licking your leg. Let's see what he does. But yeah, because we don't know him that well in terms of his hunting strategies and what he likes to hunt, we're not really sure on his sort of menu. Every male leopard has its thing. Some will be warthogs, some will be impalas, some will be bushbuck and nyala, some will, target baby waterbuck. It just really depends on the individual. As we know, Hukamuri used to love trying to go after warthogs, whereas, Tingana was never really that big a warthog hunter. He would go after other things. So it always just depends on the individual, and that always kind of dictates what animals then, what areas that they like to move in. So we'll have to learn that about Tortoise Pan. It's going to take a bit of time to learn these things and to understand how he goes about his business. But luckily he's just sat down for us now. I know it's not the best view. There's a lot of branches and things in the way. But what we want is for him to get used to our cars, and even with this roof on. So, we don't want to push too hard with him while we have the roof on. Hope you're asking, is he small? Did you say smaller than Tavangumi in size? I think that's what you said. No, he's much bigger than Tavangumi. Well, not much bigger, but he's heavier set and bigger head and dewlap. He is older than Tavangumi, so he should be slightly bigger. I think Tavangumi at the same age will be bigger than Tortoise Pan from a height point of view, but I don't think stocky wise it'll be pretty similar. Tortoise Pan's not tiny, he's a stocky cat, so I think they'll be quite close in size. I don't think we're going to see a huge discrepancy in the size between them. But it's really cool that we're getting to see him more often. It's one of those things where the western side of the reserve was so quiet for so long, and now again we've got lots going on here with Shadulu, Tortoisepan, Kara. Nzotini the other day was pretty cool to see her coming through. So yeah, it's nice that the western side is starting to see leopards again. Nice to see Kalambe in the central parts of Djuma this morning and yesterday afternoon. It seems like everything is starting to kind of come back to Djuma after a few days of very little. I think he might settle down and groom for a little bit now that Impala's moved off. He might find that he's going to just take it easy for a little while, which is perfect for us because we can just sit and take it nice and easy ourselves and relax and not have to drive around in this horrible cold. As we were coming down Triple M, it was terrible. The wind was howling in our faces and it was very, very cold. My hands were freezing. So if he stops and decides just to rest here for a while, I'll be more than okay with that. What I'll do is if he does start to sleep, I might then try and just reposition us slightly, get us into a spot where we can actually see him a little bit less obscured than what we are right now. Actually, what I might do is just roll back slightly so his head is not cut off by that branch. Just hold it there, Paul. I know it's going to bump a little bit. There we go. That's better. So if he looks over, we can see him nicely. The good thing, though, is the more that he pushes this side and the more we start to feel his presence here, the more the females that have got cubs with him, so the likes of, Shadulu theoretically should mate with him, even, Nzotini, they're going to be a lot more comfortable to cross into this area and spend time in this section. If he, as the father, is dominant here, then it allows them the freedom to move their cubs into these sections, and therefore, we'll see them more. So let's hope that that's the case. We're going to sit here with him and just see what he gets up to. Hopefully he's going to just settle down and we can spend the morning with him.
Favorite animals because they're beautiful, and I'm obsessed with nature and the beauty of how different things are formed and the patterns that they have. And this is a wonderful little flower from a tree wisteria, or a Polizanthus speciosus. It's a very widespread plant which has got stunning flowers that droop down like bunches of grapes. And the purple color just strikes out in this dry environment and catches your eye so wonderfully. This Polizanthus speciosus is often used for all sorts of things like garden decorations, and also what do they call those bonsai trees that make wonderful bonsais. And this one has got beautiful leaves starting to come up, and there's bunches of flowers that are going to start drooping down. So this is only just the beginning of this flower, this tree blooming like this. But I want to show you another one. There's another really cool plant that's blooming right now. Look at this one. Look at the intricate patterns and tiny details of these beautiful flowers of this red bush willow. And this is Combretum apiculatum is the scientific name. And look at this. We don't really see the flowers that often. And I really think that the last season we had being extremely wet. Oh, goodness, the wind is really blowing. The last season we had being extremely wet has put a lot of groundwater and allowed these trees to really replenish their resources so that they can flower aggressively the following season. And hopefully this will mean that there'll be a lot of seed recruitment and a lot of new plants rejuvenating and growing up. Wow, what a spectacular flower. And it actually has a great smell. It's very subtle. Extremely beautiful.
welcome back to our leopardess Tingana. Oh, sorry, Tlalamba. My T's are getting mixed up, everyone. So she is actually just settled. You actually can't really see her from any other angle at this moment. But she's settled probably 10 meters from the edge of the river. And then Yala's went up on the other side. So she's kind of watching. She almost looks like she's starting to snooze a bit now. But she hasn't moved from this position in a good few minutes, so it looks like she might be starting to settle down. She hasn't seen any movement on the other bank, but I'm sure if she does see the movement of the ears or anything again, then she'll edge a bit further forward. In total, in the last 15-20 minutes, she's probably moved maybe 5 meters, but just in and out of this very heavy thicket. Sorry, Elton, I didn't quite get that question. Could you repeat it for me, please?
Shreya wants to know how long were they deaf and blind for after birth.
Thank you so much, Shreya. So they will be, or their eyes will be closed for usually about 2 weeks, and their ears 2 to 3 weeks after birth, and then they'll start opening. So it does take a little while. They're born literally almost completely dependent. They can't do much on their own. The only thing they have a natural instinct for is actually just suckling. So she will have to look after them, she'll have to clean them, she'll have to move them if she needs to move them. And for at least the first 2 weeks, the eyes will be completely closed. It's actually very interesting because when the eyes open, they can actually be quite a different color to what you would expect in an adult leopard. Oftentimes they're a bluish color, which is really beautiful. I'd be very excited to see how many cubs she has and where she decides to have them. She has been hanging around this area for a while. So it would be interesting to see, maybe she'll choose a spot further up along this riverbed. There are a lot of great hiding places on the banks. She's definitely relaxed a lot more now. She's no longer lying ready to move. She's actually lying on her side. And I think that's because the Nyala have completely moved off. I haven't seen any movement on the opposite bank in quite a few minutes. Is incredibly thick on the other bank as well, so she does have an amazing space here if she did decide to give it a go and see if she can find herself some more food. She definitely has a lot of potential in this area. Alright, so she's definitely settling down a lot more. Her ears are still moving a lot. But we're going to see what happens. I'm hoping that she decides to get up and move across the riverbed. And if she does, I'm hoping we'll be able to show you a really nice view. But for now, let's go back to Tortoise Pan with Tristan.
We do have Tortoise Pan. He's also starting to just settle in the long grass at the moment. I'm just trying to give him some time to kind of relax and get used to us before I even move. I'm pretty sure, though, also in these conditions, if I do move, he's going to get up and walk. So while we have him and he's around, I'd rather just sit and enjoy him for what he is. And we can reposition and move and change accordingly at some point. Unfortunately, there's another car that joined us, so they're going to come in, and if that's the case, he might get up and go. Looks like he's still just grooming for now, though. It amazes me how these guys are able to contort and position their body and groom themselves the way that they do. So, honeybaker, they don't have very much color vision. Remember, with leopards and most of your cats, in order to see well in the dark, they've had to sacrifice color vision. We have two types of cells in our eyes. We have rods and cones. And cones are your color receptive cells, and rods are your light receptive cells. Now, in humans, we have a balance that allows us to see very, very vivid color, but very poor at night. So for them, they've got the opposite. They have an increase in the number of rods in order to be able to see at night, and a decrease in number of cones, which means that their color vision is very, very poor. So for them, it's not that they see completely in black and white, but the colors are all very, very, very muted to them. And it's almost a pretty similar kind of thing as a black and white. It's just got a little bit of color in there. So they're not hugely color, what would it be, color, I don't know where it is. I've worked myself into a corner here. Yeah, they just don't color at all. That's probably the way we should say it. Forgive me, it's cold and I'm getting older, and so my brain is not working very well this morning. That's right, boys. Sit like that and then face us. It'll be much nicer. Trying to see if there's a different gap that we can use to see him. It doesn't seem like it. He's like kind of tucked himself in a little horrible spot here. We're just going to have to be patient and see what he gets up to. For sure, Anna Maria, it would be very cool to see him hunt. He was quite close to that impala. It was a lot closer than I thought. And what was strange was it just a female impala on her own. I don't know if the rest of them moved off before we got here or what happened. But it would be cool to see him hunt. It would be nice if he made a kill too, especially if you put it on our side. That would make life very, very, very good, because we'd have... if he made a kill of a big impala, that's at least 2-3 days that we would have him here, so it'd be nice. But that's imminent. I'm pretty sure at some point we're going to find him on a kill here. He's spending so much time kind of crossing this boundary at the moment that it wouldn't surprise me if we do. The last time I was here, I was with Guess, or at WildEarth actually, funny enough, we had him twice in a couple of days, and then this stint now, he's been... twice in 3 days, and when I was here with Guess recently, we also had him kind of crossing over. So he's around and doing his thing, and we had him on a kill at Sydney's Dam or Baobab Dam. So he's definitely moving a bit and starting to press more and more into Djuma, and hopefully the more he has kills and the more he brings females over and mates with them, the better it's all going to become, and the more relaxed he's going to be with being in our area. It's nice to actually have a sighting of him not running around. He can be a busy cat. I've had days where we've had to try and follow him, and even this morning so far, when he was mobile, it's a tricky animal to keep up with. He walks quickly. So nice to actually have him settled and still for a change. I'm hoping, like I said, it's going to be a nice long sighting that we'll have of him. No, this other car moving, and he's just like, I'm not having any of it. You see the other car is approaching, and look at his whole demeanor, how it's changed. I've lost him now. I can't see where he's gone. He was looked like he was almost in stalk mode. You see him there, Paul? Still there? Oh, okay. Let's see where he goes. He's heading straight to where I saw that impala run. I don't think he knows the impala's gone. I think he still thinks there's an impala in that bush in front of him. Alright. I have to try and reposition here because it's going to be very, very, very thick. Let's see if we can see him again. Seems like he's moving, so back towards the road, unfortunately. Or the boundary, should I say. No, he's just here in front of me. Hello, boy. Your impala went that way. I saw it earlier, running off. He obviously didn't realize that it's moved. You see, he's sniffing where it was. This is exactly where it ran from. Silly boy. The way he's walking though, it almost seems like something is still close. I wonder if the impala didn't stop just in front here. There's a little quarry thicket. Now you see he's looking where he saw it. You see how he's sniffing around as well. He's trying to work out where it's gone. Can you imagine what their noses must tell them? You know, we're talking about their eyesight just now, but their noses must be incredible with the way that they sniff around. I would love to know what it how it sort of processes in their brain when they scent like this. Is it like a little map that they kind of pick up and they can see a trail, or is it just that as they go, they kind of smell it and they know, okay, this is the direction I need to head? It's almost like, you know, when you walk past a bakery. I wonder if it smells like that to them. You know, it's like that smell of fresh baked bread. You can kind of follow it on your nose until you find it. I think once he picks up the trail of that impala, he's going to hopefully try and track her down. It'll be interesting to see if he does pick it up, what he does, and if he does start to stalk again. But we'll stay with him and we'll see what he gets up to. He's certainly going to be busy and going to carry on sniffing, and hopefully he'll lead us to that impala.
We're in the center of the reserve. It's a much more open area, so a completely different experience. It's also in the afternoon, so just a little bit hot, shall we say. We're following some lion tracks, and then we found the scat of a lion cub. So we didn't see the lions, but we decided to leave the area. It was getting a bit too dense and a bit too thick. So we've come all the way down to the water hole to have a little break, and then we're going to keep walking and see what else we can find. And TJ himself actually reminded us at the start of the walk that when you're on the vehicle, it's all about observing. But when you're on a walk, it's all about immersing yourself in nature, being part of the ecosystem. And that's exactly what happened today.
looks like it's a very difficult climb because every time it tries to climb, the ground is breaking, so it slides down. But it's the only one. Look at that. That is the call of desperation with a cub. It's like, what are you doing, mommy? Oops. Oof.
Expect the unexpected here on WildEarth daily.
All right, welcome back. So we have managed to find Tlalamba again. She is coming back towards the tree where her carcass was yesterday, just walking through the riverbed. The wind is incredibly strong in this section. It is tunneling down this little riverbed. Just incredible to see her moving. Probably one of my favorite things about a leopard is as they're moving, there's just that little tip on her tail that you can see, that beautiful white tip that the cubs would follow. It's just so expressive. Alright, I'll have to see if I can follow her in here. She is certainly giving us a challenge today. With our roof on for the rain, she's been walking pretty much in every angle where we can't go. With our poles for the roof and underneath trees that we certainly cannot reach with our roof on. We're gonna try and see. Alright, she is actually going back to her tree. Oh. Morgan's telling me to stick to the riverbed. I'm gonna trust him. Or maybe she might be going up. Let's see what happens. She is indeed going up the bank. I'm hoping if she goes up the tree we can get a shot of her at least trying to climb up, but at this point, right, I'm going to have to try and angle it like that, Morgan, with our bars. At this point we'll have to see how we go. We've got the roof on, so we can't go too high up because we'll be obscured. But she is looking up at the tree as though she wants to go up and have a look. There is still some of the carcass left. So she probably wants to check on that, actually. Absolutely incredible. All right. Alright, so this is as high as we can go with the roof. So it's a very beautiful leopard tail and stomach. And there she jumps out of the shot. Alright, I'm going to have to try and reposition and find a higher spot where we can try and get a view of her. We've got the rain roof on, which means we're very limited in terms of how high the camera can go. Alright, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to head up onto the opposite bank, see if we can find an angle where we might have some higher ground. I'm going to send you back to Tristan, who's following Tortoise Pan, and hopefully we can show you Tlalamba in her tree just now.
Yeah, but I think he's going to cross back onto Arathusa now. Unfortunately, he's going onto the road, and then he looks like he wants to go back into that side of the reserve, unfortunately. So I don't think we're going to get much more of him. Well, we'll see. We never know. Maybe he'll go up that termite mound and sit down there for a little while. But for now, he looks as though he's going to cross back onto their side. He keeps doing this. He goes in 50 meters and then goes back again. I wonder if it's not because he's still a little on the nervous side of what's on the other side there. Maybe Mulawati keeps him at bay. So Jennifer, no, they shouldn't get whiter in color when they age. They pretty much stay the same. They don't seem to change color at all. Let's see, it looks like he wants to scent mark there. Go up the mount, come on. So yeah, they stay pretty much the same in terms of their coloration. They don't really go whiter or lighter in color. The muzzle a little bit, yes, they'll get like a lightening around the muzzle area, but he's going to scent mark. Wonder if he'll soar for us. That'd be cool. He's going to roll as well. I wonder if there isn't somebody else's scent there. It could be, this area could be either Kara or Shadulu. They both walk around here quite a lot. So maybe he's picked up their scent. And we know that Kara has been displaying to Tavangumi to try and kind of get him to mate with her. So maybe the scent that she's left behind here will be of intrigue to Tortoise Pan, and you want to try and find her. It could also be another male. I mean, Tavangumi could potentially have come down here. He sees Fleming grimacing. Love it when they do that. There's a lot of scent marking going on there, though. See how he's scraping his back legs, rolling. So now he's making sure that anybody else that comes past here will know full well that this is his area. So he's using his face, he's using urine, like I say, scraping up the back legs. Silly boy, what are you doing? Oof, this wind is horrible. I'm jealous of Tessa being in the drainage line where it's away from this, because she'll be getting none of this where she is. Being out here on Triple M is not pleasant at all this morning. See, up on the mound and then sit. Nope, not today. I think too windy and cold to be up there. Let's say yes, amazing camouflage. The leopards are masters of it. Even in plain sight, they can seemingly disappear. I mean, just watch as he goes around this mound. How that spotted coat, if you look where the grass is, how it just blends in. So they have the best coat for hiding away and making sure that they aren't seen. It's incredible sometimes how well they blend in. When we had him the other day with Inzatini, he was lying in a patch of grass and she was lying next to him, and you could see her perfectly. And there was one little patch of grass and he was able to get in there, and it was like there wasn't even a leopard there. There was, even with the camera zoomed in, you could just make out his ear. It was pretty crazy. I'll try to go forward so we can get one last view of him, because he's going to cross out of our area. Unfortunately, I can't go in here. This is Arathusa on my right hand side, so we'll have to just watch him meander off. It's still scent marking here. Sorry, I'm going to try an angle so that this pole's out the way. There we go. Hello, boy. Let's see, he might turn and might change again and come back. He's kind of been a little bit all over the show this morning. He went into Simambili, then came out. So when we first saw his tracks, it was coming out of Simambili, then turning back into Simambili. Then he kind of came back out onto our side and turned. So let's just watch him now and see where he goes. But I suspect that he's going to disappear off into Arathusa further. It's his normal kind of trick that he does, and where he's heading is towards a drainage line that runs to a dam called Red Dam, and he's been getting seen quite a lot at Red Dam of late. I'll go forward a little bit just to get past this quarry bush. Oh, I've lost him completely now. Don't know if he's laid down or what he's done. Oh, there he is. But yeah, he's steadily marching his way westwards at the moment, I'm afraid. Alright, well, that's the last we're going to be able to see of him. Hopefully you guys enjoyed seeing him this morning. You can see that camouflage now as he starts to disappear right there. We're going to carry on. Let's go see what else we can find.
Alright, so while myself and Morgan sit in the breeze, which we're definitely still feeling, our princess has found herself a spot where she's nice and sheltered in the tree. And we're just going to sit here for a bit and watch her and her movements. She's going back to feeding. Can really hear those bones crunching. She is really having a very good feast. Incredible to hear the bone crunching. Very special sighting. Alright, welcome back to Tlalamba in a tree. You can see she's carried on feeding from the carcass that she hoisted yesterday. She's actually moved to a beautiful spot in the tree, so we've got a really nice clear view. She's really enjoying feasting on what is left of that duiker. Hoping you can hear it over the wind, but there's quite a lot of slicing and chewing going on, and every now and then a breaking bone, so listen out for that in the background while she's chewing. You can see she is still alert and checking her surroundings even though she's in the tree. There's not very much left of this carcass. Definitely was not the best day yesterday for that little one. But you can imagine for her, she's quite heavily pregnant, so it can be a challenge to hunt. But along the riverbed here, there would be a lot of things like steenbok and duiker that she would have the chance of catching, and she's really got to make sure she takes in as much as she can. Because now she's eating for 2 or 3, 4, who knows. My guess is she's eating for 3. Oh, look at those eyes while she's chewing. There's so much power in those jaws. She's definitely still very alert, so as much as she might be slightly sheltered, you can see the leaves moving around her. There is quite a wind coming through the drainage line, through the little riverbed, so she's still trying to be really careful because those sounds of the crunching and the smell of the carcass, luckily it wouldn't smell too bad because of the cold weather we've had since yesterday. Those would definitely attract things like hyenas or even other leopards in this area. You can see how the whole canopy is moving. It is a very strong wind today. What that does mean for her though is not only is it keeping that carcass cool like I said earlier, but it's keeping her cool as well. See how well camouflaged she is in that tree, as is, you know, especially if you're looking at the silhouette with the cloudy sky in the background. It weren't for her tail hanging down that catches your eye. You wouldn't actually tell that there's a leopard there. Strong legend, it would be quite a fight. Usually that would happen if any of the predators come into another predator's territory. So if another leopard came in here wanting to steal that kill, there would probably be a bit of a scuffle. There would be a lot of sounds, a lot of noises, a lot of snarling and growling. Because, oh, she dropped a piece. Look how she looks at the floor like, oh no, what have I done? Wasted. So because she is heavily pregnant, she's got quite a strong reason to try and hold on to the territory because she knows the territory and she knows its safest spots. But at the same time, she's got to match that up with kind of being at risk of getting injured with those, you know, tiny little cubs in her belly. So normally there would be a fight, there might be some displacement, and then a lot of scent marking and territorial behaviors like that. Because she is quite a big female, I don't really see much danger of her being ousted from this area anytime soon by another female. And because the male's territory can cover quite a few females' territories, you know, I don't think there's much danger of a male trying to steal the territory. He would want females here, so it would more be, you know, just trying to get as much of that meat as he can. So any other leopard might try and come and steal that meat. I think she's got quite a strong hold on the east though, so I don't think she's in much danger of being ousted at the moment. Leopards have such incredible balance. Oh wow, look how she's repositioning that whole carcass. And plucking some hair off. I love it when they do that. I don't know where she's taking it, but she better hope she doesn't drop it like she did that other piece. So she's actually using her front teeth at the moment with that little plucking movement just to clear some of the hair off the skin. So while we continue watching our leopardess with her breakfast meal, let's have a look at an upcoming trip to the Masai Mara in 2022.
The Masai Mara in Kenya is an iconic wilderness filled with life. Its inspirational beauty has captivated our hearts on WildEarth for many years.
While this season of the world's greatest migration has been missed, WildEarth is preparing a spectacular comeback in 2022. For the first time ever, WildEarth will be running expeditions to Kenya's Masai Mara throughout the 2022 migration season. Hosted by David Githu and Isaac Rotich, you could be a part of the team that shares the wildebeest migration with the world, live on WildEarth's daily safaris. If you're interested, then head over to our website to find out more.
Well, exciting times going back to the Masai Mara for WildEarth, and exciting that you guys can come along and join. Such an epic destination. Mara is very happy to have been back there this year. It was such a crazy place, and beautiful beyond words sometimes, that place. Anyway, we just picked up tracks now, but I'm trying to see clearly if it's a lioness or a male leopard. It's difficult because the substrate that they're walking on is not very good. And with this little bit of rain, it's kind of obscured things a little bit. It looks like whatever was walking here is during the rain, because there's particles of soil being picked up off of the sand and darker little pieces being dropped on top. So that's normally a good indication it's after we've had a bit of water or dampness. So I'm just trying to see clearly now. No, it's a male leopard. But who is it that's walking here? I'm trying to show you what I'm talking about. It's not easy to see. I don't know if you're going to be able to get it in Paul, but on the sand there on the edge of the road here is like a little obscured patch. I'll try and show you now. I've got to make sure. Let's get a stick here so I can actually show you what I'm talking about. So here is the track here. Now you see when I make that stick circle, you see how dark the soil is and how it looks like there's some dampness that's coming through. If you look at this track here, you got 1, 2, 3, 4 toes back of the pad like this, and you see how there's this kind of soil that's on top. That's because when this animal was walking, this was all damp and wet, so that soil is stuck to the actual paw, and as it stood again, it's deposited soil from the previous step, as well as just slightly scuffed this stuff, and that's as it's picked up, it's pulled soil upwards and it's left this shape here. So this was during the rain, so not afterwards, but it's a big male leopard track. So the only animal that has feet this size is Mulawati. None of the other leopards that we see out here have feet this big, so it must be him that's walked past here. I'll try and see if we can't track this down. It is so cold. Horrible. But let's go and try and see if we can find him. You never know. It's always, it can be a futile exercise to try and track this cat. But we'll do it anyway. Just, you never know. Maybe he has a kill that we can find him on. And these tracks are pretty good, so they're from this morning. We'll try and see if I can find him. I'm sure a lot of you have also been wondering about what's happened with the lions, because, you know, this morning or last night there was a lot going on. Ooh, these tracks are nice. The lionesses seem like, well, there's a tracks for a pride going northwest from sort of central Djuma, so I'd imagine that must be for them. We're going to find this leopard. These are fresh tracks. But the dark mane has been found. He's almost at Londolozi now. He's moving straight southwest towards Londolozi at the moment. Not very far from there. So he got a serious move on last night. I think he got a bit of a fright from old S8, and so that's why he's moved. But yeah, that's where he is, and then the Pride hasn't been located yet, but tracks seem like they're going northwest. I mean, it could be in Kahuma's, but it could also be Talamati's too. Goodness, it's cold. This wind is just horrendous. Tracks are still going. These are very, like I say, very fresh. These look exactly the same as the tortoise pan tracks that I had earlier. So within the last, I would say, hour and a half, 2 hours, this cat walked here. All right, boy, come on. I know you're shy, but just give us a glimpse. We'll use our little tracking wand to put out the good vibes. Still going.
As WildEarth has shown, a guide is critical to your enjoyment when on safari. Safari Guide of the Year is an annual event which creates awareness for these men and women who dedicate their lives to tourism and wildlife. WildEarth fully supports this initiative that gives more credit to a profession that drives our economy and flies South African flags higher than most. In the lead up to our live award ceremony, where the Safari Guide of the Year 2021 will be crowned, we are inviting all our viewers to join us for a special fireside chat. Open to everyone, this unique event invites some of the top guides in the country to Djuma on the 26th of September, straight after the Sunset Safari.
We had a very exciting start to our morning this morning. Today, it's our guided sunrise safari with Mike, and we started by looking at the moon through a telescope, which was incredible.
It's in fact the shadow of the Earth.
It's been a very different drive from all the other ones, very interactive.
Your pigeal gland is something the hoopoes have in common.
Hi. This morning's drive with Mike was thoroughly enjoyable. He really engaged us, but we also did some birding, and I managed to add a few new birds onto my list. Overall, every single experience with all the competitors has been really incredible, but it's up to the judges now.
There you go. So we're still tracking this leopard. I can see where he lay on the road, and I can see where he chased a hyena off the road as well. There was a hyena that was also sleeping, and then he chased it and carried on. But these tracks are good. They are, this morning, like I say, it's the same freshness of the tortoise pan tracks when we found him. So, and we know that we found him not far from where we found the tracks initially. I've lost them now. They're still going there on the side. I can see them. The elephants have messed around in there, and they look like they disturbed the whole area. Just worried that we didn't see them anymore. Is he still going? Yeah. The other one, it could be, I mean, I don't think so, because I think his feet are a little smaller than this, but could be Tingana, this. He's been walking this area before, so it's possible it's him. But you see, I've lost the track now. This cat turned off here somewhere. is again. Tracy, what other methods do we use to track animals? This is the method. You can see here where he's walking. So when we're driving, what we're looking for is in the road, particularly on the right-hand side, you see there's a disturbance in the tire track there. It doesn't look like much, it just looks like a change in the pattern of the tire track. So that's something you start to look for when you're tracking, and then from there, when you pick up these tracks, if you're following in the bush and it goes through a grassy section, depending on the animal that you're following, you can start to change the signs that you're looking for. So the footprints are obviously the first thing, but then when you're walking, you're going to look for grass that's bent a certain direction. So if leopards walk through and it stands, it will bend the grass in the direction that it's traveling in. So you're going to look for that. You're going to look for anywhere where they scrape their feet to scent mark. You're going to look for any signs of urine on prominent trees or bushes. So as they scent marking, they'll turn and they'll hit a bush or something, and then they'll urinate on it, and you can get little droplets of urine that will be on those leaves or that tree, and depending on how fresh it is, it's either dried or it's still dripping, and if it's still dripping, then best you keep an eye out of what's going on. So those are the kind of methods, but tracks are your biggest thing on a road. That generally indicates where you're going to go from there, and then it's following on foot through blocks and using those small little signs. Watching the master trackers at work is something that is unbelievably cool to do. There's some serious trackers in this world, and when you see the really good ones going about it, it can just blow your mind as to how good they can actually be. Still going. I think this is Mulawati. It's going to cross south though, unfortunately. I was hoping it would, like a small part of me was hoping it was, well not small, a very large part of me was hoping it was Tingana. The last time I saw Tingy on the WildEarth drives was right here on a termite mound behind me here. So I was kind of hoping it was him and he was going back to his termite mound. We were going to find him sitting there, but it looks like it's just still going. So I suspect that this is going to cross out of our area. The southern boundary is right here, unfortunately. Okay, well I'll follow it all the way through just to see if it does cross. In the meantime, let's send you back across to Mike on Bushwalk.
So we use a lot of signs of the bush to try and find animals, and one of the signs could be as simple as finding the evidence that something was killed. And so you can see I'm holding in my hands some feathers that I've just picked up off the ground here at this site where something was killed. And as Tristan was explaining, some of the ways we can figure out what's happened, with this particular sign of evidence here, of course, we've noticed that something was killed. There's feathers strewn about on the ground, which is unusual. And some of the feathers still are attached to some of the flesh of this bird. As you can see just over here, you can see this group of feathers there are attached by some sinews. So definitely a bird was killed here, probably by a bird of prey. And now you might be wondering, how could I possibly tell if it was a bird of prey that killed something? And I mean, I can't be 100% certain. However, you look at these feathers that I've got in my hand here, and can you see how we've got the two long feathers over there, which have got the full quill, and then some shorter feathers. Now those shorter feathers have been cleanly sliced, as if someone used a pair of scissors to clip them off. Now, if this was killed by a predator that was a terrestrial predator with teeth, you might find that those feathers ends would be more jagged and crunched and chewed up. Whereas if a bird of prey was plucking this bird and using its very sharp beak, you might find that it would clip, just like a pair of scissors, the ends of these feathers as it was trying to pluck the feathers out of the bird to get to the soft meat just beneath the surface. So that's one of the pieces of evidence that I have used to try and figure out what this was. I don't know what type of bird this was. The feathers themselves are an interesting color. They're like brown and black at the same time. Very difficult to tell. I'm not sure what this was. It could have been a Franklin. There's grayish color to them. It might have been a nightjar, although the colors don't seem quite right for a nightjar. Very difficult to say, to be honest. But let's look closely at this evidence here on the ground. Okay, look around us. Do we have any other large feathers? Do we have any large flight feathers? These are about the largest feathers I can see, and these do look like primary feathers, which means this was a fairly small bird, not a large bird. Perhaps this was an owl, or an owlet. Maybe an owlet was caught here. Here's another largish feather. All of them have this brown color. I don't know. It will remain a mystery. Some things are never meant to be figured out. Life is all about the mysteries, I suppose. But it's just one of the evidences we use is when we see something like this. But the wonderful thing about a bushwalk is that we're constantly surrounded by nature and it's quiet. We don't have the sound of the engine. So we often simply, as we walk, will hear alarm calls or sounds. When you're driving in a car, like Tristan is doing, you have to switch off constantly to listen, to hear what's going on. We can smell things really clearly. We don't have necessarily the sounds and the smells of the vehicle around us. So it's really wonderful. And in fact, on a day like today, it's a bit more tricky. However, because we can't go too far away from our safe areas, but Tristan has free range today and he's still on the hunt for his leopard.
Not great. The last track I have is coming straight towards the boundary. I haven't seen it cross the boundary yet, but I'm going to just double check to make sure it's not lying up somewhere on this little fire break area. But yeah, coming straight down towards where I am now. There's lots of impala tracks here. There's impalas on our left, so you never know when you've got impalas around and fresh leopard tracks. Always good just to double check, because sometimes, like with Tortoise Pan just now, they can sit and watch those impalas. I've had it with Shadulu here before, where you find the tracks and you see the impalas and you're like, this cat will be here somewhere, you just got to look. So just want to make 100% sure that he actually left before I carry on. This isn't him, but this looks like a female. The female leopard has crossed here south into Hoffman's. Now, where is his track? It's coming straight to the direction where I am now. I don't see it crossing here, which means maybe it's worth just checking this little fire break here. Just check the fire break, see if he's not watching these impalas. The impalas are behind me. I see somebody turned here. Maybe they've driven over the tracks. Shante, it's generally not really a selection of vehicles. Depends who's on shift. Obviously, Jonty, being the size that he is, he can't fit into Wendy. So Wendy, for some reason, the alignment of the seats and the steering wheel, Jonty just doesn't fit, so he has to be on Rusty. I just don't like driving Wendy, so generally when I'm here, I like to drive Rusty. Most of the girls, so Lauren and Trish, they like to drive Wendy. They don't like Rusty at all. They say Rusty's not a good car. I don't know why. I find Rusty to be the best car. And then, yeah, so it's just like a kind of discussion amongst everybody. Most people know, though, who likes what car, and there's others that just don't really care at all, so they like whatever car that they're in. So just generally a chat, but no one is responsible for selecting. And once you're into the car for the period that you're here, you just stay in it. It's much easier that way. You basically build your own little nest in the car. You have your stuff that you like to use on your game drives, and you utilize that stuff in order to conduct your daily safaris, and so to move it in and out of cars every day is quite tedious and monotonous. You see, he came out here and crossed. Okay. Well, we know where he went at least. He came out and went straight into Arathusa that way. Alright, well, it was worth a try. You never know. Could have easily picked him up, it is Mulawati, I'm sure, then it would have been tough to find him, and he probably wouldn't have allowed us to see him, but you never know. It's always worth following a track. Could have killed an impala, could be up a tree. Just don't know unless you actually put a bit of effort into it. I see a lot of guys at the moment, when they see his tracks, they're like, I'm not going to follow it, but he'll never get better if we don't continue to try. I mean, I don't think he'll ever get fully relaxed, but if we're not going to try, then he's never going to get relaxed. Marie, you say you always enjoy a nice bumble with the Djuma vehicles. I think a lot of you that watch this, especially long-time viewers, and Anna Marie, I know you've been watching for a while now, you guys will always enjoy a bumble on Djuma, and ultimately, it's been home for however many years it is now, and so a lot of you have a very big attachment to this area because you've seen so much of it, and you've seen us in times where we've had very little and we've had to just talk nonsense, and times where we've had a lot, and so you've grown with it, and that's why I think a lot of people just enjoy when we're on Djuma and bumbling around, because things can happen, and it generally leads to some sort of ridiculous conversation, which for the most part we try to keep entertaining. It's not always the case, but we try our very, very best. It's a weird thing that you got to try and kind of figure out a way to balance information with being somewhat entertaining. So we do try at times. It's a bit of banter here and there is, I think, always good for everybody. I think so. I think I could drive most of these roads blindfolded now. I would love to know, it's actually something that would be quite interesting, I would love to know how many hours I've done on Djuma now, and how many times I've driven the roads of Djuma. I mean, there's certain roads that I've driven very little, so like Hyena Road, for example, very little driving of Hyena Road. But there's other roads that I've driven a million times, I reckon. It feels like a million times. If you think about every time having to go into quarantine or towards the DRC to go back to camp, it's a fair number of times we've driven some of those roads. Also, how many times I've been to like Treehouse, Twin Dams? Would be a lot. At one point, that was like the circuit. August 2017. You would just come out of camp, Treehouse Dam, Twin Dams, and generally by then you would have found a leopard. It would have been either Tamba, Wasana, Shadow, Tandi, Shungile. One of them would have been lurking at one of those dams during that period. There's a little hoopoe that's in the tree, actually calling for us. I'm going to try to keep quiet and see if you can hear it. The wind's blowing a little bit, so I'm not sure if you will. I think it's too windy. All right, we'll watch our hoopoe for a little bit and then probably start carrying on towards Treehouse Dam.
We're just taking a little bit of a walk around at the moment. Just trying to see if we can spot anything living, anything that catches our eye. But it's very important that we walk safely and carefully when it's windy like this. So I'm actually going to just walk past you here, BK. Just walk slowly through here, looking for things like this tree here, this tree wisteria. Amongst these green leaves can sometimes be a couple of interesting insects, maybe a flower. Oh, I just got spiked by a thorn. There's a sickle bush next to me. Or anything at all that might just catch the eye, but nothing that I can see yet. Let's just walk up here. So I can see some signs of an elephant having fed over here. But it's not fresh. I mean, you can see the elephant did eat a whole bunch of the branches from this, what looks like a raisin bush. It's not after the leaves, there's no leaves, but the bark of the raisin and the stuff underneath the bark is full of sugars and nutrients. You can actually see the elephant looks like it was digging down here. See just in there? The elephant came right in amongst this tree, using its trunk and its tusks to push the tree back, or the bush, push it back. And what they do is they take their feet, and they actually do this with their feet in order to get to roots and other things that are just beneath the surface. And they use their trunk to smell and pick stuff up, chew on it, like this, for example, here. This looks like it was a piece of a root. That's probably exactly what this elephant was trying to get to. Remember, these roots are like carrots. They're filled with moisture and nutrients, trapped underneath the ground where they don't get desiccated or dried out by this hot temperatures and strong wind. So that's exactly what these elephants wanted. What an amazing feeling to be holding something that was in the mouth of an elephant.
Welcome back to Djuma in the Sabi Sands. Morgan and I have decided to leave Kalamba. She moved into quite a tough spot in the tree, and so we couldn't really see her anymore, so we decided we'd give it a little bit of a bumble in the east. We're on Cheetah Cut Line, having a look to see what else we can find for you. Morgan seems to be having a bit of a tough morning this morning. He's dropped his earpiece. We had to hop off the car and search the road for it. Then he dropped his coffee, the last cup of coffee that he had, all over his shoes. He's having a great time. Doug, yes, I have. I've actually seen, I think, 3 giraffe here in the 2 days that I've been here. Not this morning, though, none this morning. But the one actually does stand out. I was on drive with Jonty, just kind of getting used to the reserve. And yeah. Yes, we saw Jonty, who himself is a giraffe. But there was this massive, beautiful, dark, almost black in color giraffe. Big male along the riverbank, which was really stunning. Always such an unusual animal to see, so it always makes an impression. Thank you for your question, Doug. So Wendy is taking it ultra slow today. She hasn't caught on fire or anything yet, or broken down, but we have lost the roof twice. So it's been a very entertaining morning, actually. Never a dull moment. I'd actually be very interested to see what's happened with the Talamatis this morning, where they've all ended up. There was quite a bit of drama last night, so I would love to know where they've all split up and ended up at this morning. I know we could hear Darkmane roaring pretty much all night last night. I know he was seen on the dam cam as well, so that we think is where he spent most of the night. But nobody's found him or seen him this morning, so very interesting. I wouldn't say that I find the terrain easier. It's actually not that far from andBeyond and Ngala as the crow flies, so fairly similar terrain. I think Djuma is quite a bit smaller, so Ngala took me a lot longer to learn, if I can put it that way. And because it was quite a bit bigger, there were obviously some different habitats that, you know, you wouldn't really find here. But this is the section of the Kruger National Park that I grew up visiting every single year with my family, and that's where the passion came from. And so this is actually my favorite section of the Kruger Park, purely because, you know, the leopard density, the riverbeds, some flowing water, the rocks along the rivers. But I definitely can't say that I prefer it to Ngala. I spent so long there that it's obviously got a very, very special place in my heart. It's probably the place where I've learned the most about myself in my life. But yeah, it's quite similar terrain, especially with it being so dry. It's equally as tough to spot animals and find things. But thank you for the question. Alison, my favorite animals to see, definitely leopards. I've been very spoiled here. And wild dogs. I will always try and find wild dogs. My favorite animal to follow because they're so fast, they're so incredible. But in terms of favorite overall, I think I'd still say leopard. To me, they're just so beautiful. Although a very good wild dog sighting might take a temporary first position at the time. I'm heading towards a little dip, so hopefully the signal stays with me. That's really struck me while I've been here is you forget how dry it gets. And flying in, I was absolutely amazed at how brown and yellow everything is. I know we've got severe droughts in a lot of places in the country, but you do forget how dry it can get out here. Incredibly tough for the animals, I'm sure. I definitely have some favorite wild dog sightings. One of the best moments for me was actually going to visit a wild dog den at Ngala while I was guiding there. And it was the first time I'd seen a wild dog den in that environment, and the first time I'd seen pups that young up close. So that was just absolutely incredible, being able to spend time there. But probably one of my favorites, which is not something that I've seen again, and I hope I get to see something similar, was wild dogs chasing a young elephant bull. And the elephant bull was kind of in front of my vehicle, and the wild dogs were running in circles all around the vehicle, like excited puppies, and chasing the elephant, and then the elephant would come back and chase them, and then they'd do circles around the vehicle, jumping over each other and playing, and then running back and chasing the elephant, and he would run into the guarri bushes and then come charging back at the wild dogs. Just an interaction that I haven't seen before with wild dog and elephant. And then, of course, I was with Seb doing WildEarth at Ngala. I think it was the end of last year, it could have been the beginning of this year. And we had the wild dogs chase a water buck into Clara Dam at Ngala. And that was also a very interesting interaction to see how they were trying to kind of map out how they were going to get to that water buck. So, yeah, definitely a good view. I've seen them hunting quite a lot, which has been incredible, but the two that really stand out would be that wild dog den and the sighting of the elephant. I've often said to my parents, and my dad's always told me, write down all the incredible sightings that you can remember, because you can write a book about it one day, even if nobody else buys it. It's incredible for me, for my family, just for the experience to have it all written down somewhere. Actually, thinking about it, I had a wonderful wild dog sighting as well on foot, walking some guests at Ngala, and we came up over the ridge and some wild dogs were killing a scrub hare, and we watched the whole thing pan out, tearing it apart, sharing it amongst themselves, lots of noise, and then they just disappeared into the sunset. going to keep going, see if I can find anything else for you this morning. I think we are heading into a dip again, so our signal might drop, but hopefully I'll see you again just now with something interesting.
The Masai Mara in Kenya is an iconic wilderness filled with life. Its inspirational beauty has captivated our hearts on WildEarth for many years. While this season of the world's greatest migration has been missed, WildEarth is preparing a spectacular comeback in 2022. For the first time ever, WildEarth will be running expeditions to Kenya's Masai Mara throughout the 2022 migration season. Hosted by David Githu and Isaac Rotich, you could be a part of the team that shares the wildebeest migration with the world, live on WildEarth's daily safaris. If you're interested, then head over to our website to find out more.
The scrap here collected a dry grass, put it next to the water hole as the hippo walks down during the warm of the day to drink the water. When the hippo arrives, he saw quite a very nice grass, an area not to resist to rest. And when the hippo went down to drink the water, and when finished the water, he just lied down on the grass. And then,
that was the opportunity of the scrappy.
You know what? Today is my day to pay the revenge.
I've seen something I've never seen here before. Look at these cubs. One is crossing the river. It's being washed away, unfortunately, but I'm sure the mother is going to save her. Look at that. How beautiful. Look at that. One crossing, two to go.
So though the wind is not playing nice with us, we've found a pretty awesome tree. I'm trying to hold it as steady as possible so that BK can get some good visuals for you. I believe this is a blue sour plum, Zimenia americana. Goodness gracious me, it's covered in spikes, and when the wind blows, it is not a pleasant sensation, I won't lie to you. However, eating this fruit is a very pleasant sensation because this tree has got a wonderful fleshy fruit that is, although fairly sour, the first hint of it is full of sugary goodness. It's very, very delicious. And the seeds of this particular fruit are filled with a lovely high-quality oil that has been used in cosmetics in southern Africa for a long, long time. It's in fact sold in traditional shops. You can find blue sour plum fruits, jams, and oils for use in cosmetics. And the tree itself is covered in spikes as a defense mechanism because this has a delicious fruit, and this one is fruiting wonderfully. Their fruits are not ripe yet, they're very small, but in a couple of months' time, or in about a month's time, they should be starting to become very, very ripe and delicious. Oh, let me hold that for you, BK. And we don't get to eat them very often because baboons and monkeys and birds absolutely smash them, and that's why they're covered in spines like this, to try and reduce the pressure. They want their fruits to be eaten, of course, but they want them to only be eaten once they're ripe enough, because they need those animals to be spreading those seeds around so that it can propagate and spread. Oh, goodness. The wind is howling through here. We might have to start making our way back towards the safety of the camp. We're quite far away at the moment, but I just saw this tree from a distance, two of them, and I wondered if they were what I thought they were, and they are. And it's great to see that they're about to fruit, because this is one of my favorite fruiting trees in the bush. I love marulas. Marulas are also great, but sour plums, when you see in the distance those beautiful ruby red little plums, and they're about plum-sized, you know, sort of about this big, a bit larger than a golf ball, then you basically run over to that tree, because you need to get as much of it as possible while it can, because the baboons and monkeys will take it all. And I'll tell you a funny story about one of my tracking partners once upon a time, but we'll save that for when the fruit tree is actually fruiting.
Welcome back to Djuma. So myself and Morgan have decided to head towards Treehouse Dam, see if there's anything interesting there. We are luckily driving with the wind at the moment instead of against it, so it doesn't feel quite as overwhelming. Amazing. I really didn't think when I was packing that I was going to need gloves and scarves and 3 jackets. And here I am in 4 layers and the thickest gloves I own, and I'm still cold. I think I've also lost my tolerance a bit though, to be fair. When you're out of the cold environments for too long. Kind of makes you realize though how well adapted animals are. To heat, to cold, to everything that, we feel we can't really handle without help. It really is quite a stunning day. In terms of predators, I think today is pretty much the best weather that you can get. I think I'd like to be an elephant on a day like today too. Not so hot, you can just carry on eating. That actually sounds just like me. I just carry on eating all day, it's a problem. Right, from one cold person to another, I'm going to send you over to Tristan. Let's see how he's handling it.
It's cold this morning, and I made 2 massive rookie errors this morning. The first was that I didn't bring gloves, so my hands feel like they're like little ice blocks at the moment. It's like, when they feel stiff from the cold? It's like that. A lot of people don't understand it's not that cold in terms of just sitting. Like when you turn the car off and you sit, it's fine. It's this wind chill, and when you're driving and your hands have got no protection from the wind, they just get freezing super quick. So yeah, that was the first error that I made. And the second error was that when packing to come here, I was like, end of September, beginning of October, it might get a little cold, but it won't be too bad. It'll be fine. So I only brought 1 jersey, and it's not enough. So I'm cold this morning. But anyway, at least I put long pants on today, because I was almost going to go in shorts this morning. I was like, it'll be fine. Can't be that bad. Luckily, I didn't go for the shorts, otherwise I would have been thoroughly miserable this morning. Not that I haven't been miserable at times with this wind. It's fine when you're not like get into a little drainage or something like that and the wind is not there, but when you're on these crests, it's just this icy wind that's cutting through. It's not very pleasant at all. People always say, it's not that cold, it doesn't get that cold on safari, the temperatures aren't that bad, you should try to come to these places. I hear you, I hear that the temperature's not that bad, but I've seen people that live in very cold places come on a safari and be cold, because everyone underestimates the wind chill factor, the fact that you have 0 protection from it, so it can get cold pretty quickly. I know it sounds like we're complaining and moaning, but I'm afraid we are complaining and moaning that it's cold.
it can never be right as guides. You know, we can never have a perfect temperature. It's either too hot, or it's too cold, or it's too windy. Just the way it is. Oh, Joshua, what is the weirdest thing an animal has ever stolen from me in camp? From me personally, not very much. I'm pretty good with keeping my stuff, my room locked and those kinds of things. I despise baboons, and so I don't want them in my house, and learned pretty early on that shouldn't. But some of the weirdest things that I've seen being stolen, I saw monkeys once steal some birth control pills from one of the staff and at one of the lodges I worked at, and proceeded to eat the entire packet. Pretty sure not very good for a monkey, but you know, did it anyway. I've seen... Actually, it was quite a funny one. I had a friend that had a fish tank in their room, and the baboons came in and stole the fish out of the fish tank and ate them, which is not ideal. Our cheese grater at camp has been stolen multiple times. What else have I seen stolen? Random things, as you can imagine, shoes and wallets, cell phones, all the kind of normal stuff that gets taken out and then you have to go and find them. That's the worst part. We're actually having this discussion with Taylor last night about having to go and track bins down after hyenas have been in camp and stolen them, and you got to go try and figure out where they've taken them, and then tracking hyenas is not easy at the best of times, but now you got to track a bin down that doesn't leave a footprint. It's not so easy. But yeah, all kinds of weird and wonderful things, really. I'm trying to think what else I've had stolen or seen being stolen. So a lot of you are wondering what an animal would do with a cheese grater. It's a fine question. Fine question. You'll have to ask the monkey that took it. But I remember one day we were sitting in camp and we were, wondering where all our stuff had gone. We were missing cutlery, and we saw a monkey go up onto the roof with I think it was a knife or a fork. So we're like, no, maybe stuff is up there. And then we sent one of our FC girls up there. It was Nikki Austin. Some of you will remember her. She climbed up there, and there was more stuff than you could ever imagine. Cheese graters, knives, forks, cups, bowls, plates. It was like a whole party up there. But it was obviously just from, somebody using something, not closing the door, and it had the smell of food on it, so they just take it up and use it. But I don't know, each to their own in the monkey world. They pretty much take anything and everything that they can physically remove from a kitchen area. I'm surprised actually animals stole some of the shoes from some of the people that I've known along the way, because some of the people have had shoes that no self-respecting human would ever want to go near. So I'm very surprised that the animals even remotely wanted to go near those shoes. There's been a few people in my time that, it was kind of the rule was that they kept their shoes on or took them far away. So, yeah, weird. Living with animals is fun. You learn very quickly that you should not leave things lying around. It's actually a great lesson. I think children should come to the bush to learn this, because I remember as a kid being told many times that I must pick up my stuff and not leave things lying around and, be tidy. Out here, you learn that very quickly. Don't leave anything lying around, because if you leave anything, it's going to be gone. And if not gone, it will be severely chewed and damaged and not look like it did when you left it where it was. Good lesson for kids, actually. Some just never learn the lesson, I'm afraid. There's certain members of this crew that never learn a lesson and have had multiple pairs of shoes, clothing taken because they continually leave them outside, even though they know what the consequences are going to be. And well, there's not much you can do about that, I'm afraid. You can tell people once, and if they don't want to listen, then they must suffer the consequences of losing shoes and various other things to the wildlife. Although it's not great, we don't really want things like
hyenas chewing on shoes and those kinds of things. And also it leaves a mess in the bush. You don't want plastic or anything kind of being left out there. So I think it should be like a training course when people go to lodges as for what you can and can't do when it comes to your stuff. Anyway, we're slowly bumbling back to camp and just kind of trying to use the lowest roads possible. Hopefully we'll pick up something there along the way. You never know, maybe an ellie hiding in the thicket. Would be a nice way to finish up this morning.
Welcome back. Like Tristan, I'm also bumbling, hoping to bump into something. Because it is so cold, I feel like even the herbivores might be starting to hide away from this wind that's picking up. But it is really beautiful scenery here. Actually some leopard tracks here. It's amazing. Have actually been driven on top of. Somebody else has definitely seen them as well. You can see how hard the wind is blowing just from the trees moving. Let's hope the bumble is successful.
I know Tristan was talking about hyenas being pesky and stealing stuff from camps. And just happens to be that as we were walking, we found this piece of fabric, which has almost certainly been stolen out of some student's tent. It might be part of a backpack or a toiletry bag. And the hyenas are extremely pesky. In fact, there is a hyena that visits our camp regularly that's called Scully. I don't know why they've named it Scully, but Scully is a real cheeky one. In fact, Scully did once, I'll take this back to the camp, Scully did once steal my toiletry bag. I left it somewhere very stupid on a table, which was easy in reach, and it was made of leather, and of course filled with all those delicious things that hyenas can smell. And it went missing, and I thought, it's gone for good. I'll never see it again. It's a piece of leather. Of course the hyena's got it, it's going to chew it, eat it. Tell you what, Morris, our tracking partner, 2 days later found my toiletry bag somewhere out here not far from the camp. Because he saw how upset I was. I've had it for years. And he brought it back to me, and the only thing that was damaged was the little tag that attaches to the zip. And I couldn't believe it. There were bite marks, but no punctures, no tears, no rips, nothing. I actually wanted to send a picture to the company that made it to say best toiletry bag ever. Because what a cool marketing thing, right? To say that our toiletry bags can survive hyena attacks. But you know, as we walk here, we're not far from the camp. As we walk around, we do find all sorts of stuff the hyenas steal. They've learned how to get into our kitchen. We've even tried to put like little sheep. Sorry, I've chosen a terrible path for you here, BK. We've put like little sheep electric fence around our kitchen. That's, you know, for you keeping livestock in. But the hyenas have figured out how to get in and around that. They can jump over it, they dig under, who knows. But yeah, we're forever finding, you know, they even got into our fridge once and they didn't eat any of the meat in our fridge. I couldn't believe it. They only ate the vegetarian substitute foods. It was crazy, but yeah, between the hyenas and the monkeys, it's kind of like a constant battle of wills, like who comes up with a better system of defending or attacking. It's quite a lot of fun. And the students, it's a great thing to teach the students how to look after their things in the bush, because if you leave stuff lying around, animals will get to it. And once they've learned one thing, especially things like hyenas and baboons, once they've learned once that they can do something, it's game over. They'll always know that there could potentially be something tasty there. So we make sure the students know very well to keep their stuff well hidden from those creatures, and don't keep anything tasty in your tents. Sorry there, BK. I'm choosing you all the most, the trickiest. Okay, cool. Well, we're going to make our way just past this termite mound and then maybe start making our way back towards the camp. But in the meantime, we'll send you over to Tristan, who's got himself a feathered friend.
Indeed, we have red-billed buffalo weaver, actually quite a few of them that are busy feeding around on quarantine. I don't know what it's got there. It's got something that it's busy eating, a little caterpillar, or anyone see what that is? The monitor's quite small, it's difficult to make out. Or cricket maybe? It looks quite flimsy, so maybe a caterpillar. Oh, it's gone now. What is that? Oh, whatever it is, it's having a bad day. You can see there's a couple of them that are bouncing around in here. There's also some canaries that are in amongst them. You might see them pop up and down, and I saw some sparrows just now too. There's quite a number of birds that are utilizing this area. There must be something here that's causing them all to come in and feed in this section. It's very seldom that you get kind of big groupings on quarantine. It's not very good place for birds to be foraging because it's so open. It often leads to attack from the smaller raptors that hunt birds. There's not a lot of cover here, so you don't find big parties of birds that are small like this out in the open. But I like red-billed buffalo weavers. They're actually pretty little things. They, you know, from far everyone just kind of sees black, but with the little bright red beak and the white on the wing, can be very pretty little guys. Lots of them here too. They're all over the place, especially on all of our masts. They like to make their nests on the mast all the time. It makes for the perfect structure to build a nest. And the nests of these guys are absolutely amazing. I had very kind of newfound respect for these guys, because when we sometimes have to climb the masts, unfortunately in the winter months we try to do it is try and kind of clean the nests away, because otherwise you can't get to the equipment, or they build over the equipment and damage it. So in winter they're not nesting, which means you can move the nests, and so we had to do it the one day. And I always thought that their nests were just like a whole bunch of sticks randomly put together, but it is this maze of well-threaded thorn branches that they use on the outside. So they get buffalo thorn and knob thorns mostly, and they weave them into each other. So it's like this absolute spiky nightmare to try and get your hand anywhere near. And so you kind of, the outside is like that, and then there's a small little entrance that goes in, and inside there is the softest, most lush little nest that's built with all these beautiful little grasses, and it feels like you kind of got your hand on a pillow. So the contrast between those sort of outside and the inside is amazing to me. And also obviously that they build these communal nests that they all share together. It's pretty incredible too. So pretty smart little bird, this. Thorny sort of outside of your nest is going to deter a lot of different predators and make it hard for things to actually get into the nest. Young, so yes, migratory birds are starting to come back. We've got Wahlberg's eagles already back in the area, booted eagle, yellow-billed kites, so they've started to arrive. We should start to see European beaters now in the next month, and then you'll start to see some of the cuckoos should be back already or arriving. And then as we go towards December, then we'll start to see the European rollers, carmine beaters, redback shrikes, woodland kingfisher should also start arriving soon. Yeah, lots of migratories are on their way, but the eagles generally are the first ones to get you. So we generally see like the Wahlbergs and the booted eagles arriving first, and then you start to see the smaller birds after that, you know, like your barn swallows and European beaters. They typically arrive after the first good rain. That's when we start to see them. And we haven't quite had that yet. So when we do, then we'll start to see these migratory individuals arriving. Also need a bit of warmer weather. I'm not sure migratory birds will enjoy this nonsense that we've had this morning. Actually, it wouldn't be too bad if it wasn't for the wind. When the wind, because it's gusting at the moment, when the wind drops, it's actually quite pleasant. But it's just this horrible cold wind that must be coming off a mountain somewhere that got snow. Because it's much cooler than it normally is. Anyway, all our birds are flying off. Seem like they are going to greener pastures to find food. We'll try to roll forward a bit and see if we can catch up with them. I see there's a crested barbet here as well. Alright, seems like they're all disappearing, so we'll carry on and go see what else we can find.
I have a degree in environmental planning and development. My passion is outdoor classrooms. We are not only grooming the environmentalists of tomorrow, but tomorrow's leaders as well. My long-term goal is for the people of South Africa to learn how to live sustainably, to be able to look after themselves and the environment. So I hope that through environmental education, we are able to get that message to the future generation of South Africa so that they start now and can continue that good practice in the future. Environmental education is critical so that people can live sustainably in the future. That is my long-term goal.
It's day one of the annual South African Guide of the Year competition, and our first foot into this competition this morning is all about tracks and signs.
We're going to call you in one at a time. Just look at it, the information will be there.
Our 5 guides have been tasked by the judges at figuring out who is what is who, and where they go in the bush.
Either Franklin or guinea fowl, but because of the volume of other deposits in the area, we went with guinea fowl.
Detailing the surrounding that you need to look out for tracks. The details is very important.
You are cheeky. That was a brave decision. Amber Eyes is... Oh. That is so magic. That was absolutely wonderful. Amber Eyes just gave that cub an enormous hug.
Expect the unexpected here on WildEarth daily.
All right, welcome back to some bird life here at Djuma. So we are watching some of the red-billed buffalo weavers, and there's a crested barbet hopping around there, just feeding. So it's actually fairly sheltered up on the top of quarantine, which I wasn't expecting. but you can see there's quite a bit of bird life. I actually had a little friend just now. I had a little sparrow come and land on Wendy and hop closer to me on the bonnet, which was quite entertaining. And look at that beautiful streak of red at the crested barbet's tail. Got an itch, you've got to scratch it. So one thing that I've always particularly loved about a crested barbet in particular, obviously other than the phenomenal colouring, is how aggressive they are with what they do. They've got this massive, broad, strong beak. You can see that this barbet is just attacking the ground, looking for food. And it always kind of blows my mind exactly how courageous and strong the birds might be. Apologies for the wind, everybody. It has picked up out of nowhere, so I know that you can hear a lot of wind at the moment. I'm trying to cover my microphone. You can see how that barbet is blowing around. The feathers on its neck and its back are being blown upwards towards its head. You could really see the crest nicely though in the wind. So very typical behaviour for a barbet to be hopping around on the floor like that. This is actually one of my brother's favourite bird species. They really do stand out in amongst everything else. Quite a chunky body, very, very strong. Jake, yes, I would consider myself to be a birder in some respects. I'm not, absolutely perfect at identifying birds at speed sometimes, but I certainly do try. I love birding. I've always loved it. From very, very young with my family visiting the Kruger Park, birding was always part of the experience. You used to see lilac-breasted rollers and things everywhere, so I knew the names of those when I was still quite young. I definitely love birding. I take it as a challenge every time I go somewhere to see how many different birds I can identify. My specialty is definitely more in the mammals. I studied a very specialised branch of science called African vertebrate biodiversity, which covers birds as well. But my specialty is definitely more on the mammals and the larger animals. I also studied reptiles quite in depth. But birding is part and parcel of what we do. It's definitely fun though, there's so much detail that you could find and miss in birding, and sometimes it's the subtlest and smallest things, so it comes with practice, I can tell you that much, and a keen interest. We have found our barbet again. He is still attacking the floor. Very aggressive feeding. So a lot of the time I think, we don't appreciate the smaller things enough. So it's something that I've learned to take very great value in, is having a look at the smaller things. Especially birds that can be so colourful and entertaining. And we can learn a lot from them too. Some very interesting behaviours that you'll find with birding. But it has been an absolutely wonderful morning. It's been such a pleasure having you on safari with us. I really hope that you've had a stunning morning. Hopefully it's not so windy and cold for us this afternoon, but we can't wait to see you this afternoon at 2:30 on our next live safari. And thank you so much for joining us this morning.